Hi friends, the Halo Infinite campaign is finally here. I'm going to give my review on it in this video so you know if the campaign for Halo Infinite is worth playing or not. I'll try and avoid going too deep into the story to try and avoid as many spoilers as possible, but there might be a few, so just a heads up. So the first thing to think about when I'm reviewing this game is the imagery and the graphics, and I have to say, they're really amazing. If you remember E3 a few years ago, everyone was really upset with how the graphics and the quality looked, but since then they've definitely done a lot of work because what they've launched with is a really great and visually pleasing artwork and setting. The opening cinematic sets up the first mission and it looks like something from a movie. I really was impressed. The general game world does feel more immersive as well. It's not quite the feeling you got with the original Halo or Halo 2, but it's a significant step up from the confined world that was Halo 5. And while the map isn't anywhere near as big as some open world games such as Cyberpunk or even GTA, it does feel a lot freer than the previous Halo installments. Much of your gameplay takes place on Zeta Halo, and it feels like you're back in the world of Halo, unlike Halo 5, which to be honest didn't really feel much like Halo at all. One more important thing is that you're actually playing as Master Chief for the whole game. If you played Halo 5, you'll know that you barely got to play Master Chief. You spent most of the game playing as Locke, which is fine if it's a supporting Halo title, but that was supposed to be the main Halo game, and yet you barely played as Master Chief. Luckily in Halo Infinite, they've corrected that. Let's talk about the grapple, because this really is game changing. It may seem like a small addition, and sure, many other games have had the grapple for a while, but it just feels about the right time for Halo to introduce a movement mechanic like this, and it really works in Halo Infinite, and I definitely think it adds to the fun of being an open world campaign. Halo Infinite's campaign also makes you feel more in control. You have the option if you want to go straight ahead and do the main missions, but there are also side missions that you can do, which are essentially to free bases and free marines. What's clever with this is that you do also get rewards for doing the side missions. You can find Spartan cores which allow you to upgrade your armor or equipment. It's kind of like a skill tree progression, and it feels like a nice add-on because we never really had this in Halo before, although it is quite familiar in other games. What's more, with the campaign, you can also unlock multiplayer skins, and this means your hard work in the campaign does also give you some longer term benefit for your multiplayer experience. And I think this is a really clever addition. It almost links the two elements of Halo together. There are a few things I felt could have been better though. For new Halo fans out there are a lot of assumed parts of this story, and if you're new, you probably won't really understand the context for what's happening. To be honest, even seasoned Halo players, like me, that have played every Halo game, might also be struggling to remember what some of the context of these things are in the story of Halo Infinite. You do get a bunch of flashbacks, and you can definitely enjoy the Halo Infinite story on its own. It's just you won't really know much of the background story of why these things are happening. So I would definitely recommend going on YouTube and watching some story recap videos if you're keen to actually get into the Halo Infinite campaign and really understand what's going on. I think a simple solution for Halo Infinite would have just been to have a recap at the start. And it could have been optional, you didn't have to sit through it, but it would have been nice to have that option to at least get a recap of what we've achieved in the previous 5 Halo games. I will also mention the enemy, the Banished. They seem a little thin in depth compared to the Covenant or the Flood. I kind of understand why, because they are a spin-off fraction of the Covenant, so they can't really have too much depth as an enemy, because much of their history is just Covenant history. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like there's a rich story there. And again, if you haven't played previous Halo installments where the Banished have featured, you won't really understand who they are, because it doesn't really explain it too well in Halo Infinite. There's one other massive piece of the story I feel Halo Infinite didn't really do a good job in covering, and that's Cortana. You see, Cortana's such a massive part of Halo, almost as much as the Master Chief, and to be honest, the Master Chief himself doesn't feel quite the same without Cortana, yet they don't really cover much of this relationship in Halo Infinite. And in fact, Halo 1, 2 and 3, what made it great was the relationship between Master Chief and Cortana, and how that shaped up and developed through all of the missions. The good news is though, you do have a new AI called the Weapon. While this definitely helps add to Master Chief, and it was definitely something missing from Halo 5, I do think it was a mistake not to give the new AI a name other than the Weapon. I do like the new AI though. That kind of play between Master Chief and his AI is such a big part of Halo, and when you don't have that, it feels like you're missing half of the story or half of the experience. I do kind of feel like the new AI misses some of the presence that Cortana brought as the new AI though. She's a lot more light-hearted, and it kind of feels like Master Chief is the boss and she's kind of just listening to him. And the thing with all of this is that Halo Infinite doesn't really bring any closure or answers to Cortana's story, and I personally think that's a big miss. Overall though, if I reflect on the Halo Infinite campaign as a whole, I would say it's definitely worth playing. The story is a massive improvement over Halo 5, and while it's not perfect, it's definitely a great title to get back into Halo with and really enjoy the lore of Halo. And I think they've done just about a good enough job to bring Halo back into the conversation about being one of the best shooters around. Like I said, the story is just about rich enough to make this memorable, and while it lacks some of the elements that made the first 3 Halo games amazing, Halo Infinite's campaign still feels like a great Halo game. And if Halo 5 made you stop caring about Halo, then Halo Infinite should definitely make you care about Halo once again. I hope you found this video useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you later.